So we have a number of people who are on our board, our BLI board here in the US, advisory council members, and also friends of BLI. It is indeed a great opportunity to meet. How I wish we would be meeting in person, but still wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be able to see you and to have this evening. Really, we wanted to have this evening because a lot has been going on at BLI, especially the launch that just happened in July. And so wanted to share a little bit of stories, information, developments, pictures, images of what took place, because we feel that with the public launch that we just did, we are in a new chapter. And so we thought it would be a wonderful and really an opportunity for us to kind of come together and reflect on where we are, even as we look ahead on the journey ahead. When we decided to have a public launch, we had 3 goals in mind. And so we're going to reflect a little bit about that and how that was realized, and then also kind of as we look ahead. But before anything else, I would like us to open in prayer. And I would like to take the prayer from Laudato Si, this encyclical by Pope Francis, that ends with this beautiful prayer for our Mother Earth. Let us pray. O powerful God, you are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of all creatures. You embrace with your tenderness all that exists. Pour out upon us the power of your love, that we may protect life and beauty. Fill us with peace, that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one. O God of the poor, help us to rescue the abandoned and forgotten of this earth. So precious in your eyes, every creature, bring healing to our lives, that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty, not pollution and destruction. Touch the hearts of those who look only for gain, at the expense of the poor and the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of everything, to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognize that we are profoundly united with every creature as we journey towards your infinite light. We thank you for being with us each and every day. Encourage us, we pray, in our struggle for justice, love, and peace. Amen. So we're saying that when we decided we were going to have a public launch, we had 3 goals. One was in terms of publicity. We wanted to announce ourselves on the scene. Even though we had already started, this would be a public announcement that we are here. But with the public announcement, the back of our mind was also a commitment. Once we make a public launch, a public announcement, it is also a statement and a commitment. That was goal number 1. The other goal was to gather, to celebrate. We want to invite all our friends or our partners that have journeyed with us since we started, that have supported the ministry, to come to see what has been realized until now. And we wanted to do that at BLI in Uganda, to gather the community of BLI. And at the same time, to commission the first fruits of our program, the caretakers. So that was the second goal of the launch. The third goal was to invite new partners and new friends into the journey ahead. So we feel that this public launch marks a decisive moment in the history and in the life of BLI. That's why we wanted to come together to share a little more about the launch, what happened, but also to talk about the future briefly. So this is going to be the flow of our evening. First of all, we ask Theresa Murray, our development coordinator, to share with you some images and pictures and some comments about what took place on July 29th in Uganda. And then Theresa will invite a few of you who traveled and were present at the launch to offer your own thoughts and comments, impressions, ideas, issues, especially what you see as kind of calling for more attention that from your experience. And after that, we kind of open up for discussion, and we shall invite Emma, our communications coordinator, to kind of facilitate that communication with questions, comments, whatever you want to say, whether it is in response to the presentation or any other issue connected with BLI. And then towards the end, I'll say a little more about what we see as the future going forward, and then also bring in Theresa to kind of conclude by vision of what we see, what she sees as the major opportunities, gifts, and challenges in relation to the support, financial support for what we plan to do. Okay, so without further ado, Theresa, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Some of you I've met. I'm sure all of you have received emails from me over the past few years. I'm Theresa Murray. I'm the development coordinator for BLI, and I've been with the organization since 2019. So I traveled back with everybody in July. I spent 3 weeks on campus, lucky to do that. I haven't been there for 3 years due to COVID. And so I actually just have a slideshow of my photos that I'd like to share with you in a moment here. And after that, we'll answer questions. So slide us down over here. Sorry, let me get rid of this for a minute. My screen's popping up as a host, so sorry about that. Okay. Can everyone see that? Yes. All right, so just to remind everybody, we are here, BLI exists to address 3 problems in rural Uganda: ecological degradation, food insecurity, and poverty in 3 ways: through environmental education, environmental conservation, and economic empowerment. Whoops. Hang on a second. Let me get this. There we go. So to just give you the contrast, this is Kampala, as we drove through Kampala. And with 70% of employment in Kampala, this is what we're trying to avoid, that we're trying to keep people in the rural areas and give them an educational opportunity in farming and success there. And again, more of Kampala. This is the road, Luero, that you turn into BLI. And so now you'll see the contrast as you enter our campus. And this is an aerial shot of our forest, the edge of the forest and our banana plantations. So you can see the contrast in just short ways from Kampala, but much more opportunity to keep them out in the rural areas and be successful there. This is our farm. This is Mary's house. This is our teaching area. This classroom currently stands as our classroom, the cafeteria, meeting rooms. This is our staff housing. The campus, we broke ground in 2020. They worked on it all through 2020. All of the bricks come from the ground there. It was all made on campus and constructed on campus through the entire pandemic. And you can see the difference of our farms. Nice, healthy farms with the buildings interspersed in those. Here's our staff. This is Sylvester Koule, the Institute Program Director. Father Joseph Kakuza, the administrator in charge of the finances. Simon Niombe, coordinator and head of Mary's school and the formation program. Evelyn Nambuze, the assistant head of Mary's School. This is Sissy Nakasi, head of Martha's Market. And Chris Mugwaya, head of Lazarus Treats. And these are our newly commissioned incubators. This is our staff. They aren't called teachers, they're called incubators. These are the ones that went through the program as the first class of cohorts and are now our training staff for the new cohorts that will come in. So what we're teaching is integral ecology, an integrated system based on a circular system of no waste. Everything depends on each other on our campus and supports each other in it. And so you'll see this is our part of our group touring. That includes animal husbandry. So you can see the animals, how they're cared for. They're cared for in very kind and humane ways. This is called Fermented Bed Technology. So the pigsties actually don't smell at all when you're in them. Our goat house. So it keeps the goats up, keeps them from disease. We collect all of the droppings and feces from the animals that goes into our fertilization process, the weeds they eat, and we have a completely closed circular system with everything supporting each other on the campus. So they go out during the day and they roam around and they come back into the house at night. Our chickens. This is our rat and rodent housing. And again, you can see how we collect the waste from the animals there. This is our new aquaculture pond. I watched this literally be built within 4 days. They dug a hole. They took the trees that had fallen in the forest. They don't cut down more. They created lumber for them to create fencing. They filled it with plastic tarp, filled it with water, and 4 days later they had 1,500 fish in there. This is our beginning of our student demonstration class, one of our incubators, Jimmy. So you'll see that there's a very integrated system using permaculture, composting. This is agroforestry. See the compost piles, vermiculture. So it's a completely closed system. This is one of our incubators, Harriet. And what she's doing is she's shelling some beans. And so she's in the seed multiplication area. And what they're doing is bringing back indigenous seeds that had a higher protein and higher nutrient count than the current beans that are being grown there. And so they are growing these crops, they're bringing them back, and they're selling these seeds to the local community so that they can also get more beneficial food sources. Here's some of our caretakers. As I met with each one of these, you can see there, most of them were harvesting. They're harvesting corn at the time. And so I asked each one of them, what are you doing with your corn? And I got the same answer from every one of them. I'm selling it to Vincent. I'm selling mine to Vincent. So finally, I found Vincent. And I asked Vincent what he was doing with all of this corn that he was purchasing from everybody. And he said, well, some of it I'm keeping for my future seed, but he was in the first cohort and he'd already grown crops and sold his crops, and he had some money. So he was purchasing from them, and then he was going to take it out to the mill to have it ground into cornmeal so he could sell it for an even higher price. So he's apparently learning our entrepreneurial skills already. This is one of our guys up in the tree, and what he's doing is shaking that tree to get the fruit out. And you can see them enjoying that fruit at the end. This is a greenhouse made out of recycled bottles. We have a volunteer on campus for 2 years, Maria Riveres. She graduated from Notre Dame in 21, and she's spending 2 years with us. And this was her idea. There's a lot of plastic waste in Uganda, and she created the idea for a greenhouse. So he's growing tomatoes in there. And this is a drying racks they also created to dry the fruits and vegetables for value-added sales. This is Lazarus Forest. This is our tree nursery. And this is an outdoor classroom within the forest. This is Chris with his staff. So this is an example of the tree planting. So you can see these trees being planted here. These are old cassava and banana plantations where they had cut down the trees of the forest and they made plantations out of them. So this is part of our tree planting where they're bringing the ecosystem back in this way of growing the trees. These are pathways that they've cut through the forest. So I spent 2 hours walking through the forest. You can easily spend 2 or 3 hours. It's that large and that deep to wander around in there. They've cut 6 pathways through there. You can see the trees being planted. They've taken the invasive species out. There's been a lot of invasive species that were very water heavy, and they were drying up the wetlands. And so the wetlands are now coming back as a result of our efforts. We have 6 paths going through there. Animals have returned, birds. There's over 100 species of birds that have been identified by the Audubon Society in there. Monkeys, larger animals such as cow are coming back, fox, and so they are regenerating the ecosystem. Also, it's going to serve as a ecotourism spot. So these trails that they've put through there are for tourists to come in, and also they are going to allow camping in there. So another part of our initiative is to rent some tents and let people come in there and sorry to see. This is St. Francis House. So for those of you that were involved in completing St. Francis House, this is it at the edge of the forest. Off to the left side here are the residence rooms. Some of those can hold up to 8 people. So if a family's traveling together, they can stay there. Father Joe and his staff live there and run it. This center area is for meeting rooms and the cafeteria. And this is what it looks like on the inside. So if somebody wants to come in and hold a retreat or meetings, this is what St. Francis House looks like. This is Kiwumpa Campus, our original campus of 85 acres that Father Emmanuel and his 2 founders started. The forest is coming back there as well. This is a nice added surprise that we had that wasn't there the last time I visited in 2019. The neighbor next door discovered that he had a natural spring on his property, and so he dammed it up and created a pond. And then it turned out when they surveyed it, it actually belongs to BLI. So we now have a natural spring, which is water is life in Uganda. So our little challenge here is to find a way to use this wonderful water and get it up to our irrigation fields. Kiwumpa is our production campus now. So that will be our income producing campus. And we have a wonderful water supply there. If you go to Uganda, anybody that's been there, you've all planted trees. This happened to be the tree planted by my son. Back in 2017, we found the tree again, and you can always go back, you'll get a plaque, and you can always go back and see how your tree is going, but you can see how they're growing pretty rapidly. And this is Father Kevin's tree that he planted from his first trip to BLI. This is a family of a couple of our caretakers. On the left in the plaid, that's Alice. She was part of our first cohort. And her sister Amy is in the red on the right side. And this is her family in their village. Mom used to use pesticides and fertilizers on their property. And the girls have gone back now and they're teaching what they're learning in integral ecology. They're planting trees. The mother is no longer using those things. Her crops are coming in better. Immaculate here in the right side was one of the victims during COVID when they shut down the schools for 2 years. She had to stop going to school. Alice was already on the BLI campus. And when schools opened up again, many times the parents don't have enough money for their children to finish school. And so they need to redirect their funds so the younger children can start school. And Amy was caught in that cycle. And so Alice went to Sylvester Coulee and asked if they could find a spot for Immaculate on the campus, which we did. And they are both recipients of our scholarship funds. Each student at BLI must participate financially in their education. That's so that they do not foster a sense of dependency. You just get used to dependency, and that is built into our program. However, some of them can't come up with the full fund. So in these cases, we have scholarships. Our scholarship fund will pay for a portion, their portion of it, and they do extra work study on campus in order to make up for that. One of them is also being fully sponsored for her time on campus. Also, this is what we're teaching at BLI. They have become change agents in their community. So not only do the girls come back to visit and they bring trees to plant, they teach everybody, their mother has now become a voice in the village of showing how our methods of integral ecology, regeneration is a better way of farming. And she's spreading the word in her village, which they are becoming the change agents that we are aiming for. And then on to our official launch on the 29th, there were over 1,400 people in attendance there, which was absolutely amazing. We had people from Notre Dame. This is director of the Kellogg Institute. The dean of the Keough School was there. We had representatives from the Vatican. This is Father Emmanuel welcoming Bishop Sissimo Gary. Sorry, Sis Emmanuel, you can help me out. So,
you're doing well.
There you go. He has been our patron since we started. He saw our success as we were going along, and he also saw some of the struggles. And so in 2019, we entered into an MOU with the Casanawero Diocese for a 49-year lease, and they gave us the 300 acres that we built the Institute on, and that includes the last virgin forest and all of Luetta region. Since then, he has been promoted up to Archbishop of Kampala, and he led the ceremonies that day. And we also had representatives. This is the Deputy Prime Minister. Greeting everyone. Singing, dancing, music. The festivities went on for 6 hours. These are some of our attendees. You can see a large tent. Our caretakers. This is Maria, the volunteer on campus. She was also commissioned as a caretaker. Representative from the Vatican. We had representatives from all over Africa, neighboring countries, Nigeria, Kenya. The word got out, the publicity that we were aiming for, I think, was quite successful. For the entire week beforehand, there were press conferences and podcasts, and Father Emmanuel, I think, was on something every day. We were covered by the 4 major networks in Uganda, and we have links on our website that you can see some of those media stories if you'd like to. This is the offering during the Mass. And if you've ever seen this in an African country, they bring the fruits of their labor to the offering for the Mass. And so these are what the students have grown, raised, they brought for offerings. This is Father Cornelius, who is one of the co-founders with Father Emmanuel. And of course, Father Emmanuel. These are the seminarians. The bishop decided that he would like to send the seminarians over to BLI for a semester. And so now they have decided that they will continue to come for 1 semester of training on integral ecology, so that when they go out into their parishes, they can also teach and spread the word. It's the commissioning ceremony. And this is our staff uniforms in the blue there now. The Archbishop was commissioned as our very first caretaker, and he has pledged to be an ambassador in all of his 5 dioceses and spread the word about BLI and to help to create model campuses like that. They were each given a tree and a pickaxe as their graduation present. There was some fundraising, because we are also building the Anthony Zachary Wiesa Memorial Hall. This is going to be for researchers, people who come on campus, interns that want to do research. We expect that there'll be academic publications coming from those researchers that will be on campus. So the fundraising began that day, and the groundbreaking as well. And of course, the tree planting ceremony. And this is the final photos and the plaque presented by the Prime Minister of Uganda and the Archbishop. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Theresa. Thank you for memories and the wonderful presentation. So do you want to call upon some of the people to just share a few insights, comments, reflections?
I do, and I'm not sure if Fiona or if you are, there's a name not on here. I'm not sure if Fiona is on or not. I guess let me know if you are. We took 20 people on tours with us for 10 days while we were there, culminating in the ceremony. And so they spent some time on campus, a few days on campus, and we just like to get their insights. But I'm not seeing that she's on, so I'm going to call on the next person, which would be actually my husband, Bill Murray. This was his, he hears me talk about BLI, and this was his first trip there. So Bill, would you like to introduce yourself and give a few words?
Yeah, thank you. As first of all, pleasure to meet all of you and to see a few of you again that I met in Uganda. I am Theresa's husband, and so I have heard, as you can imagine, about BLI quite a bit for quite a few years. And so, as you can imagine, I had some impressions as I was beginning to make the journey to Uganda. And the slideshow, I think, really helped capture visually the experience that I had as I came to the campus. So as we turned onto the access road from Luero, and we're on the access road, you didn't really have pictures there, but that road is quite a bumpy road. It is a challenge to get to. And then you get to the end, and all of a sudden it opens up and you see the campus. And so as I was reflecting on my comments today, two main themes came up. The first was I was truly impressed, and you could see it in some of those pictures. The pictures don't do the full justice. So I was impressed by the sheer progress of the Institute and how much has happened in the last few years. It's just incredible. Not only the buildings, but you couldn't see all of the progress that was there in terms of each student's land and the plots that they'd have. So you start with just the sheer progress. That's what hit me first. The second thing that hit me in terms of being impressed was the knowledge of the caretakers and the incubators, their professionalism and their knowledge about the three themes that Theresa mentioned for the Institute. Everybody just is very, very committed, very, very enthusiastic. So it was really impressive. The second theme I'd say that is I came away just truly inspired. And inspired from the perspective of the vision is being realized. So it's no longer an idea, it's actually a reality. And that's a credit to everybody involved, from the people that are involved in fundraising to obviously the leadership and the vision from Father Emma and the rest of the founders to the caretakers and incubators that are making it a reality. And then the other inspiration for me was the fact that they have already are creating a positive impact on Mother Earth. This is in the example that Theresa showed with the family there. That's paying it forward. That is now extending it out in the community. And that's just one small example. And then finally, I would just say I was inspired by the passion of the people. These people are really committed to the vision, and it was fun to see. it was a trip that I wasn't sure what I would, what impressions I would have going in, and I came away fully energized and fresh and impressed and as I said, inspired. So I'll stop there and let somebody else talk, but it was really very much well worth the time. And for those of you that haven't been, I would highly recommend making the journey. It's well worth it.
Thanks. Godfrey is on our advisory board, and he is originally from Uganda, but now lives in the States. So if you'll introduce yourself, please, Godfrey.
Thank you so much. It's funny that I'm following Bill. I think we share themes in terms of hearing over and over about this concept, the BLI. First of all, I'm very delighted to be here this evening. I am a nephew to Father Emmanuel. Now, as you can imagine, I've had also BLI, really even dreaming in my sleep, thinking and talking. I've been there since the conception of the idea of BLI. So I've learned, I've been a student, if not, I've earned a PhD into understanding what the BLI is all about. So this was a golden opportunity for me also to be part of this journey. I went with many of you. I met some of you. I had not met you before. So it was a great interaction, meaningful conversations as we went all over Uganda and different activities that we had. But one would say God's work is being done when you reach at the site and see what's happening. So I am very grateful to His Excellence, as the bishop lamented or talked about it, Father Emmanuel Katongole. So for the work being done, of course, and Father Cornelius, the work they have done together in bringing this to alive to make that. So the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor, for me, as Father Emmanuel puts it, as a mental health professional counselor, it really brought me more light in understanding the ecological problems and the social problems that are facing Africa, and particularly the rural areas. So, and when I saw what was happening and talking to the indigenous people, that are on the BLI, there are also visitors that were coming to visit, really, and also remembering growing up in Uganda, I could not be more appreciative of the work being done at BLI. So having said that, I take out a couple of things, two things, maybe three. One, this opportunity for me really highlighted the need to create new stories, that are fundamental in a way to help us begin having a different ways of thinking and finding meaningful ways of intervening in the ecological problems that are happening, and embracing the work and being part of the journey in supporting the work, the amazing work that is being done at BLI. So that was one thing. And that I remember when we were on the bus going to the zoo, going to the park, and I was talking to the dean, everybody that we're talking about, kind of thinking away, how can this be done? How can we engage in a meaningful way? How can we support, not only financially, but ideas to see how this can become really a reality, and making sure that we support those goals or those objectives, the purpose of BLI, which I think is providing sustainable living for the people living in rural areas, but also form leaders that are able and willing to engage in the integral ecology for that is transformation for the entire, not only the village, but also the country at large, as you saw. So BLI for me really this time created in me a deep sense of connectedness, really standing aside and looking at the diversity of people that turned up on this event really spoke loudly for me. This was a call for people. I was talking to some guy came from Kenya, and he's talking about the same issues that are happening there, and really affirming how deep this work is. So really, I can go on. I am so delighted, and I was so very happy to see you all coming on this and really engaging on this meaningful work that Father Emmanuel and his company I've started and doing in Uganda. So thank you so much. I think Theresa, I'll end here.
Thank you. Thank you. And last but not least, Andrea, one of our board members, and she's been involved since the very beginning with BLI. So if you'll say a few words, please.
Yeah, happy to share. Like Theresa, I definitely had a sense of I can't just use my words alone to, express all of this. So I wanted to show a couple of pictures also. I'm going to assume that you all are seeing a picture here from Uganda, and if you're not, someone yell. So a first impression that I would want to share with the group is coming from the USA side, from the board. I think that sometimes we can become really myopic and say, well, we in the US, who have all these resources and this wisdom, or we're so, developed, we understand the importance of ecology and we'll bring that understanding to a new place. How foolish of us, what a foolish perspective that sometimes we end up thinking in those ways, when the reality was absolutely the Ugandans had ownership of this project and they were teaching us so much, so many processes that, I theoretically have a knowledge of, and just seeing them really take ownership of it. Theresa mentioned all of the animal husbandry and the technological expertise that is. I had to throw in this picture of what may be the world's cutest pig, because that just really shows how much care they have for their animals. I don't think there's a more photogenic pig in the world than that one, but it's probably because it's being so well cared for. So it was just exciting to me to say, like, these ideas that we've talked about on the US side for so long, we're seeing absolute ownership of that, and not just ownership, but leadership on the Ugandan side of, it's not us transplanting an idea, it's us saying, this is a shared value. We're excited to be together in this. And so it's so much about the relationship side of things. Here we have, two of our board members, and we just had some sweet time that it's able to be together, because we do different board events that are virtual, or we try to do more of making that connection, but you really just can't make up for that in-person time. And so another aspect of this trip that I would want to emphasize is that relationship building that we get to do on the ground. So it was exciting to see all of that. And I will just touch on, of course, the grand opening that so many folks have talked about. It's hard to really describe how celebratory, how monumentous this event was. Theresa mentioned the 1,400 people who were there, all different dignitaries. And to me, what that really shows is not only do the people at BLI, really take leadership and ownership of the importance of these values of caring for Mother Earth, this is also, they're spreading that message in their community. And it's something that the community, even if they are not necessarily as knowledgeable or as bought in as the caretakers at BLI. It's something that they value enough and understand the importance of enough that they're showing up in mass, you know, for this kind of launch and for this sort of celebration. A final thought that I would leave this group with is just, this is a picture of mostly the folks from the States who were traveling in this 10-day trip, along with the caretakers, and most of the staff of BLI is included in this photo. And I, of course, you know, how can we have a presentation without referencing the African proverb of, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. But as I was thinking about the fun relationships that were built on this team and our 10 days together, we know that, you know, that can be a long time if you're not with the right people. But this group got on really well and formed tight relationships. And I really think that is so telling about the kind of people that BLI is drawing to it. It's the kind of people who have these shared values and who have excitement and passion around those. And that's, you know, just from the tourist side of things, definitely a big part of what made the trip so enjoyable was those fun relationships of all of us getting to know each other. So thanks for all being here. I'm excited to talk more about this trip and what all that means for us.
Father Manuel, did you want to, oh, I guess we're going to open it up to.
Yeah, right. But thanks. I want just to say thank you to all of you, Theresa, Godfrey, Bill, Andrea for sharing. So now the floor is really open for comments and questions, whatever you want to say, those who are there, those who are not there. So the floor is open, and I'll ask Emma if you could do moderate, also keep an eye on the chat. This is the time. We have about 10-15 minutes for that before we kind of move towards winding up the conversation.
Maybe if you want to put something in the chat, a little hand wave or something, and Emma will let you in to ask questions.
I think there's something that it kind of strikes me a little bit, and you know, I made a comment that it's more than impressive. This is just an amazing project, but with all the pictures that I see you don't see any equipment, any tractors, anything like that. It seems to all mostly be done by hand a little bit, which is just kind of amazing. As anybody can comment on that? Is there any equipment involved in any of this project?
Well, I can say a little bit about the equipment. As you saw at the commencement and at the commissioning, each one was handed a plant and a hoe. That is the kind of the traditional equipment for agriculture. So we don't have the big equipment like tractors and things like that, which is different from the way that agriculture is done here. Actually, right now, we're in the midst of a conversation with staff in Uganda, the board in Uganda, but also with the Engineers Ministries International about the site mapping of our program, of our land, because we have over 120 acres that is dedicated for agricultural production, which direction to go. And at BLI, we are committed to conservation agriculture, or what is called regenerative agriculture. But the more kind of conventional agriculture is the kind of the heavy till with the heavy machinery, plows and things like that. And we're feeling ourselves that, no, that's not the direction really. And the preserving and the care for the soil, yes, does require some equipment, but equipment that do not in a way, totally in a way, overhaul or destroy the soil in view of planting these kind of monoculture. So this is the kind of the conversation that is going on. What kind of equipment, to what extent, in order to kind of move within that vision of conservation or regenerative agriculture. Yeah, I can see Lola smiling because I think this is her field a lot. I don't know whether you want to comment on what you have seen with ECHO and the other programs. But this is where we find ourselves kind of saying we need to move more in that direction of regenerative agriculture.
Yeah, no, I appreciated all of the glimpses that you had, Theresa, in your slides, and yeah, just seeing all the different elements. They look familiar from what you see in best practices all over the place, where people have really caught this vision and are able to implement it, sometimes bit by bit, but in a cumulative way. And yeah, it makes such a difference. And once the soil is restored and actively improving, rather than being degenerated by overplowing or constant use, yeah, then the productivity can really expand and improve people's lives so dramatically. So I'm sure, yeah, you're able to witness that with the trees and with the gardens as well. Lovely to see. Thank you.
May I also, we're a demonstration campus. And so we are demonstrating what the rural farmer can learn and use. So they will not have tractors. That's another reason we've taken this tack is to stay on track with what the local farmers can learn from us and out into the local villages. And so hence the hand tools is what we're using for that.
Father, I think this is a question for you maybe. Could you speak to the next steps and how BLI is planning to scale in Uganda and Africa? And then there's a follow-up to that of, are there any applied opportunities for applied research at BLI?
Well, first of all, I can speak about what we see going forward. I can, yeah, bring in also some of the comments I wanted to bring in a little bit later. I see now that we have come to this public launch, I see us standing at a very crucial moment in the history of BLI. We have started, we have announced ourselves, we are here. But that means now we have to do BLI now, okay? And we cannot turn back. So I see three critical invitations right now. One is to deepen and strengthen our caretaker formation program. That is the staple, that is the key program of forming and training these young people into caretakers for integral ecology. And then they go back to their communities and they become the change agents, the leaders in this whole movement of caring for Mother Earth in a way that is sustainable, but also that is income generating for them. So addressing the challenge of poverty. Now that program, okay, these people that were commissioned, the incubators now, some of them have been working with us, but now we taking in fresh students and we're committing ourselves to 2 years, and after that, commissioning them. So the training, the deepening of that kind of training program, strengthening it in not only in terms of the agricultural skills they need, but also in terms of that kind of formation into leadership skills, economic entrepreneurship. So that's kind of deepening of that program. I think is key. The second thing that I see that is key in this post-launch time is in terms of strengthening and streamlining our structures and policies so that we can, in a way, run as an institution. A number of challenges that are going to be facing us, and unless we have clear policies and structures, boards and things like that, those might be in a way overwhelming. So kind of strengthening those policies, structures, that's another key work, another key task for this time. The third is in strengthening our partnerships and friendships to kind of bring the resources, the support that is needed to move forward. As Theresa mentioned, most of our caretakers are coming from the rural communities. They cannot even afford the small portion of their tuition. So we have to continue to deepen our partnerships. At the same time, in a way, doing the kind of ecological and agricultural activities on the ground that make BLI campus sustainable. So, but those are kind of the three major tasks that I see that are really calling for our attention in this post-launch launch time. I don't know whether that more or less answers your question, Emma, or the question of the person that raised that.
The question, Emmanuel, is what is your plan to scale out in Uganda and throughout Africa?
Oh, what is scale to scale out in Uganda? Okay, well, that's a question actually that we are in a conversation. UNDP, for example, United Nations Development Program, is interested to work with BLI. We are in a conversation with that program in order to kind of really expand it beyond BLI. And we have invited them to come to visit the campus. Our plan for scaling up is that we need to bring people into the program instead of just kind of planting. UNDP's vision immediate is, okay, let's do other BLIs all around different places in Uganda. Our suggestion is that, no, let's bring people into the BLI program from different parts of Uganda. Let them go through the training program. And then those people become the ambassadors that could, in a way, set up different BLI-like programs in the different parts of Uganda. We are also working with the church, beginning with the Catholic Church, because of this Laudato Si Action platform. And we are in conversation with the Bishops' Conference that they're going to be sending their priests and seminarians and the pastoral leaders into the institute so that when they go back, then they can also encourage similar programs in their parishes, in their dioceses. This is our plan in a way of growing beyond Nandele, but we want to grow organically instead of the UNDP's vision and say, well, let's just set up other BLI-like structures like that. We still say there's still a lot that we ourselves need to learn, but also the formation is important. It's not just a question of really planting these kind of programs. The formation of these leaders is so important. So that's what we think of scaling or growing beyond Nande. That's how we think about it.
And also opportunities for applied research on campus.
Research already, I am doing research, my own research in this project called Sowing Hope, where I am bringing already graduate students from Notre Dame to work with me on this research. They say, well, is this notion of integral ecology real? Can it be implemented? What are the benefits? What are the effects? Will it have an impact actually on the rural community? We're talking about, for example, forming leaders for rural transformation. Will it actually lead to the transformation of the rural communities? Will it address the challenge of poverty? So we are already in a way setting up a mechanism for research to study the BLI program, its unique offerings, and also to undertake what is called a longitudinal study of the caretakers as they come into the program, through the program, and as they graduate 3, 4, 5 years down the road to see if this actually does create impact. Yes, there are all these opportunities, and already some of my colleagues are interested to undertake some aspect of that research. And I suspect this is Robert perhaps who asked this question about research. So I would like to have more conversation with Robert and see what kind of other research opportunities, but I can see a lot of research opportunities at BLI campus. But also the caretakers themselves, they are doing research. We are encouraging that to keep records, to see, for example, what makes sense in terms of, for example, of compost. What do they bring together? They have created, for example, BLI, a unique BLI organic pesticide. They themselves have created that. So I would like to have that tested out, tried it out. But I insist on them, they have to keep notes. They have to keep what kind of ingredients. And it's amazing how they do experiment. And the young person in charge of the compost said, I think this is going to work because we have tried our tomatoes, it seemed to work. And so all that is kind of going on really through the training program and through the incubators at BLI.
And just to add to what Father was saying before about scaling out to Uganda, first on that, I visited BLI last summer, and it was the first cohort there, and I've already seen that. Like at first the cohort started, a lot of them were from like the Luwero district and around there, and already like this new cohort, when I've like learned about them and met them, it's so much wider. Like they're really coming from more districts in Uganda, so already it is starting to scale from what I could see just 1 year later, that people are coming in from a wider region. And then also to go off, sorry, on Father's thing about research on campus too. When I was there, they're definitely always experimenting, the caretakers, like with very technical like farming things too. I remember there was like all these like dead tomato plants kind of, and we were like, what is happening? And they were like, but then there were some that like these special ones, and it was like they were trying to, it was like some of the first organic, they're like, tomatoes are really hard. I don't quite understand it. I don't know the farming, you know, everything, but there's like a certain, like they're always using pesticides, like tomatoes is like infamous for that or something, and that they were experimenting together, all working together to find like some natural remedy that they could make on campus. And it was really cool. They were like really excited because they had finally, like, there are some tomatoes that were growing successfully. So definitely lots of technical research happening on the ground too by those caretakers. Father, there's another question, or for anyone who's in Uganda too, do you see the effects of climate change, and are you looking at water conservation methods?
Definitely. I don't know whether you noticed in the picture, we're in a very dry season. This was one of the longest droughts actually. You can see almost the grass is all dried up. The miracle that happened that very day of the launch, actually, it started raining, and so it was indeed a blessing, and it has continued to rain. But you can definitely see the effects of climate change everywhere. So one of the things that we are trying to teach, that every single drop of water has to be harvested, conserved. We ourselves have been a little bit challenged that we have not yet harvested all the water because of financial constraint, but we would like to harvest each and every drop instead of kind of letting that water flow and then just kind of run off. Even the runoff, we want to just create a dam that would be used for irrigation and all that. But water is the key to this kind of regenerative farming, period. So in the context of climate change, there is no other way that than do the water harvesting and try to conserve as much as possible the water. That's why we are also committed to the wetland protection and the conservation. What that is actually doing, for example, because of the conservation that is going on around the forest, the stream in the middle of the forest is beginning to come back. It had completely dried up, but it's beginning to come back. And because also of the species of the trees that we are planting, we're beginning to see that that spring is eventually going to come back. I know Sean had his hand up. I don't know, Emma, whether
I just had a question about those who are currently participating in the program. At the beginning, you mentioned that most of those people are from rural districts, and one of the goals is to keep them in place and cultivate and grow in the communities that they will go back to. That was contrasted with the city, and I'm wondering, is there a sense or a vision of trying to bring an opportunity for people who have moved to the city into farming and back onto the land. Is that currently happening, or is that something that may be considered at some point in time in the future?
My sense that it will eventually happen when the young people see the village, begin to see the village as a viable economic reality, where they can begin to see viable economic opportunities in the village. But right now, they don't see any viable economic opportunities, and so they think that by going to the city, they'll be able to earn an income. Even though they are languishing in the city, they feel they cannot go back to the village. So they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. But once there's more and more opportunities in the village, and with this kind of farming, sustainable, renewable, regenerative agriculture, that is also income generating, I think there'll be more and more people who, first of all, want to stay in the villages, young people, but also many who would want to come back to the villages. Again, that's our hope. And that's an area for research to see that will this actually happen. We want to see, for example, 5, 7, 10 years down the road, that actually this BLI is making this kind of impact that we project that it will make. Yes, Ed.
How close is the spring to the actual village? And I think I heard that there may be some effort to try to take the water from the spring and get it to the village. So just curious how that might happen or what's involved. Or did I misunderstand?
Theresa,
I'll take that. Yeah, it's on our production campus. So we started originally at the Kiwumpa Campus with 85 acres of land. And in 2019, we didn't realize that was part of our campus. And it was very nice of this man to discover this for us. It is on our campus. Our production fields are there. So we have a 5-year business plan for sustainability of the Institute. Products that we'll be selling, and most of those will be produced on the Kiwumpa campus. And it's not very far. Right now they're carrying the water by jerry cans to the fields, to water the fields. So if we can, one of our priority, as Father Emmanuel said, is water everywhere. And so to bring it into those production fields so that we can actually start revitalizing those and getting those products sold. We think there's a market for our organic products in Kampala, in the hotels and the restaurants. There was actually an act passed in Uganda in 2019 to try to move towards more organic agriculture. And we will be one of the very first institutes that will be certified organic. And so we're ahead of the game there if we can get those fields up and growing with more than just hand watering.
Let me just add, but even before that happens, what I've seen, and that's so impressive, is that when the caretakers from their plots harvest their crops and take them to the market, they just say these are grown naturally and so forth and so on, and how people actually rush to buy that produce. Their produce is selling in the rural communities very, very, very quickly. So that's very encouraging that I think people are aware, attentive to the side effects of these crops that are grown with so much chemical spray, not only to the health of the soil, but also to the health of the individual. So our caretakers have no problem selling their produce very quickly.
Maybe I can also comment on Sean. You mentioned, you brought the issue of young people moving from the town or the urban areas to come back in the village, considering that there is something economic they are seeing. Now, there is a problem that was created by BLI. On the day of the launch, all people were watching, even young people were watching. As you can see, the caretakers, the young people who are very eloquent, they speak so much of what they have learned and what they are going to use. Now, it could be a problem or a blessing in this case, because now BLI is about to face influx of young people coming and wanting to be part of this. So I think that's where the trend is going to see. I happen to come to talk to some young people, and you're asking, how do I get in? So now the leadership has to create these parameters: who comes in and who is left out. And even the land, as much as it's big, you might end up even it's becoming smaller. So those are the things that maybe Father Emmanuel, you can expound on that to give people an idea of how that could be an issue and how you want to deal with that.
Well, already, thank you, but already we have seen a number of inquiries, people coming, parents, but also young people coming to inquire about the intake. So I was talking with the director, and he said, well, it looks like we are going to have definitely more than we can take in. And I said, that would be a good problem to have. I would like to see it. But that's where the kind of the strengthening of the training program needs to happen, that we need really to now deepen and strengthen our training program, because you are right, I think there's going to be more of an interest. But the other interest that I'm seeing, and this is where building the Anthony Zachary Reza Hall is critical, is groups, civic groups, church groups, parish groups who want to come, not for 2 years, but for a weekend, for a workshop, for a week. Those we have already received some inquiries, including churches that want to send, for example, their pastoral agents. Right now, we don't have a place to house them. The St. Francis House is small, so the Ezi Rueza Hall, the purpose of which is this kind of outreach, bringing in all these people that just want to do a workshop, for example, in agroecology, in regenerative agriculture, one dimension or the other, in rabbit rearing, compost making, just for a short period of time. So we need to, in a way, get Reza Hall built for that kind of outreach. That is, I think, is going to be even more of a need than the students who are going to commit themselves for 2-year residential program. We're coming towards the end. Theresa, I don't know whether you wanted to say something, but before Theresa says something, I just want to say thank you to all of you for your incredible friendship and support that has brought us to this moment. A moment of great celebration, a moment of great excitement, but also, as Godfrey says, that also kind of creates new challenges, new problems. With every new opportunities, there are challenges. But really to take a moment to say thank you for the ways in which you have journeyed with us, you continue to journey with us, and for all your incredible support, without which we wouldn't be where we are now. We are extremely grateful. But let me hand over to Theresa to say a few words, and then we kind of bring the meeting to a conclusion.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you. I know that most of you have been our supporters and on the path with us along the way. And when I was there in 2019, the land was nothing but brush. And so you can see how much has happened in such a short time, and that's thanks to all of you that have been supporting us. We have a really wonderful and strong staff on campus. There is no end to their ideas of what they can do, how they can grow, how they can expand it. They need funds, of course, to do that, but they're very creative and they're very strong leaders. So when I was there, they came up with 17 additional programs they'd like to launch and start and work on while they're there. in addition to some capital buildings, as you're hearing Father Emmanuel say, for all of those new students that are wanting to come to campus, we need more housing for them. Our dormitories are full at this point, but there is much opportunity for expansion there. As I said, we have a 5-year business plan, so we'd like to get that launched with Martha's Market. We have a market stand that we've purchased the land for that on the main highway, so we'd like to get that up and running. The people can find out about us. They'll come down and tour us once they're there. But we appreciate all of your help. We'd like to start an endowment fund. So if anybody has any ideas on that, and of course, our scholarship fund is there for anyone to support these lovely students. You will hear from them. You will receive letters from them. They're quite touching when you get those back. So we'd like to invite you to join into our scholarship funds, or if you'd like to discuss any of these other projects with Father Emmanuel or I, we would be happy to meet with you, to talk with you, and meet with you in person if you'd like. We'd also like to expand our reach of supporters. So we'd appreciate it if any of you can help us out with that. Emma has worked very hard on creating a new website. So if you'll check that out, it's nice and fresh with a lot more information on there. We have a YouTube channel. Actually now, there'll be videos that'll be posted up there, coming new ones more regularly. If you are on social media, please like us, comment about us, join us on that as well on Instagram and on Facebook. There has been a lot of media coverage of this event. And so Notre Dame, if you look into their, at the Kellogg School, they've already published one article. On the 26th, their website is highlighting us with another article as well. And so please encourage people to look at that, to find out about us, to join us. And we thank you for all of your support.
Once again, thank you very much for taking time to come. Thank you, Theresa and Emma, for putting this together. And we hope to continue to journey with you. So Emma has a number of invitations in the chat for our Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and for signing up on our regular updates. So again, thank you very much. I wish you all a very nice and lovely evening. We'll be in touch, and God bless.
God bless everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.